Well, howdy there, folks. James, Political Friar, coming to you again. Bit of a long layoff. I'm sorry about that. Downside of getting a new job, not having the time to think about these sorts of issues to a degree that I felt like I ought to be recording anything just in case you all hold me accountable for my uninformed opinions on stuff. But I'm going to do my best to get back into this a little bit, and I got my law hat on today. And so we're going to talk about an issue that I have gotten more personal contacts about than really any other issue in the last 6 months, and that is Donald Trump's immunity. The Supreme Court, as you probably know, has ruled on the rules around presidential immunity from criminal prosecution, a set of laws that Donald Trump has uniquely made relevant. See, it's not that presidents weren't immune beforehand, they almost certainly were. It's that you had to have a criminal president before the Supreme Court wrote the rules about how presidential immunity works. Just like you had to have a president who committed sexual harassment before we had rules on how civil immunity worked. Well, now we got them. And as not to toot my own horn, but as I suspected, the rules on presidential immunity came out exactly like I thought. They came out almost directly in line with the rules on civil immunity, and they kind of have to. It is true that a president, not Donald Trump, because he's not somebody I would trust with the presidency, but legally, a president needs to have a degree of immunity from civil and criminal prosecution to do their job. It is not a crime, or rather, it is a crime almost certainly that President Barack Obama murdered an American citizen in Yemen with a drone strike. But he ought to be immune from that because that American citizen happened to be a leader of Al Qaeda. That type of presidential immunity has sort of implicitly been recognized when the Justice Department didn't prosecute President Obama, didn't even think about it. That's because presidents, when they're executing their core constitutional duties or are in the within the outer perimeter of their job functions, ought not to be subject to criminal prosecution. And that's just a good idea. You don't want your president to be chilled to the point that they don't make a good decision for national security. Now, we don't have to have a presidential system. We didn't have to. The founders could have created a purely parliamentary system, but this is the system we've got. And if we're going to have a president with the advantages of having a unitary executive, the ability to make decisions quickly and respond to emergencies, then we have to take the disadvantages, which is, boy, when you get a bad executive, you can do a lot of damage. But the remedy here, my liberal friends, the remedy here for bad presidential politics is good presidential politics. We ought to be focused, if we don't like Donald Trump, and I will freely admit I'm not a fan, we ought to be focused on the ballot box. That's the only place that we will legitimately defeat Donald Trump. If he is defeated by a court case, it will not stick. He's got too many folks who believe too deeply in his malarkey, to borrow a phrase from an aged octogenarian who probably shouldn't be in the public light anymore. That said, the president is almost certainly not immune. Under this decision, when you read it, it says that the president is immune for actions taken within the outer perimeter of his job duties. Well, that does not include a fake elector scheme to try to steal the election. Almost certainly, if the Supreme Court had reversed and rendered, that is, applied the law that they just made to the facts, they would have found that Donald Trump was not immune for what he did. In reading between the lines of the majority opinion, it's quite clear that that is the indicated correct judgment. But the Supreme Court understands that it has to maintain its legitimacy. And in maintaining its legitimacy, it understands that it is subordinate to all the other branches of Congress, but all the other branches of government, but more importantly, it is subordinate to the voters. If you and I, as voters in this democracy, choose to vote our democracy away, the Supreme Court will not stand in our way. How could they? It is the will of the democratic process that is the foundational idea upon which this country is built. And that means that the voters have to save themselves. And if they don't, well, as Ben Franklin said to the New England Socialite as he was leaving the Constitutional Convention, we have a republic if we can keep it. So stop waiting for the court to bail you out if you are against Donald Trump. Go campaign, vote against him, and hopefully we shall save thyself. Anyway, it's just a thought. Let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. Leave me a like, hit that subscribe button. I see this is going to go out to 136 of you, and every one of you didn't unsubscribe to me over the last 6 months. Boy, you're sweet. I really appreciate it. And to everybody who encouraged me to get back into doing this, hey, thanks. I'll do what I can to try to get these out. I'm gonna shoot for daily, but at least more than once every 6 months. All right. Thanks.